Homeownership is slipping out of reach for many. A perfect storm of economic challenges has created a housing crisis. From North America to Oceania, aspiring homeowners face a daunting reality. Rising prices, stagnant wages, and a shortage of affordable housing make homeownership feel impossible. This crisis strikes at the heart of social mobility and economic stability. The United States, often touted as the land of opportunity, is grappling with an alarming housing affordability crisis. Major cities, once beacons of hope for upward mobility, are now epicenters of housing insecurity. The American dream of homeownership is fading for many, particularly for younger generations burdened by student debt and stagnant wages. One of the primary drivers of this crisis is the soaring cost of housing. According to the National Association of Realtors, the median home price in the United States has skyrocketed to unprecedented levels in recent years. This surge in prices is fueled by a confluence of factors, including a shortage of housing inventory, historically low mortgage rates, and an influx of investors seeking to capitalize on the booming real estate market. The COVID-19 pandemic further exacerbated the housing crisis, as remote work policies and a desire for more space led many to seek larger homes in suburban and rural areas. This surge in demand, coupled with supply chain disruptions and labor shortages in the construction industry, created a perfect storm for skyrocketing home prices. As a result, many potential home buyers, particularly first-time buyers, found themselves priced out of the market. The United Kingdom, like many developed nations, is grappling with a housing crisis that has reached critical proportions. The dream of owning a home, once a realistic aspiration for many Britons, is becoming increasingly elusive, particularly for younger generations. A toxic mix of soaring house prices, stagnant wages, and a chronic shortage of affordable housing has created a perfect storm, leaving many feeling priced out and left behind. The UK's housing crisis is particularly acute in London, the nation's capital and economic powerhouse. The city's desirability, coupled with limited housing supply, has pushed prices to astronomical levels, far outstripping wage growth. This affordability crisis has driven many Londoners to the city's outskirts and beyond, putting further pressure on housing markets in surrounding areas. The UK government has implemented various policies to address the housing crisis, including help-to-buy schemes and initiatives to boost housing supply. However, critics argue that these measures have been insufficient to address the scale of the problem. The lack of affordable housing is a major contributor to poverty, inequality, and social immobility, with far-reaching consequences for individuals, families, and the nation as a whole. Australia, often lauded for its high quality of life and economic prosperity, is facing a growing housing affordability crisis that threatens the nation's social fabric. Skyrocketing house prices, particularly in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne, have left many Australians struggling to enter the property market or keep up with rising mortgage repayments. The Australian housing market has experienced an unprecedented boom in recent decades, driven by a confluence of factors, including population growth, low interest rates, and tax incentives for property investors. However, this boom has come at a cost, with home ownership becoming increasingly unattainable for many Australians, particularly young people and low-income earners. The Australian government has implemented various policies to address housing affordability, including first home buyer grants and incentives for developers to build more affordable housing. However, these measures have been criticized as being insufficient to address the scale of the problem. The lack of affordable housing is a major contributor to rising inequality, social division, and a decline in living standards for many Australians. Section 5. A Kiwi Dream Out of Reach. New Zealand's Housing Woes. New Zealand, known for its stunning natural beauty and laid-back lifestyle, is facing a housing crisis that has reached a tipping point. Soaring house prices, fueled by a chronic shortage of supply and low interest rates, have pushed homeownership out of reach for many Kiwis, particularly young people and first-time buyers. The New Zealand housing market has experienced an unprecedented boom in recent years, driven by a combination of factors including population growth, a strong economy, and limited housing construction. This surge in demand, coupled with a shortage of available properties, has created a highly competitive market, pushing prices to record highs. The New Zealand government has implemented a range of policies aimed at addressing the housing crisis, including measures to increase housing supply, restrict foreign buyers, and provide assistance to first-time home buyers. However, these efforts have been met with mixed results, and the dream of homeownership remains elusive for many Kiwis. Section 6. The concrete jungle's supply and demand issues. At the heart of the global housing crisis lies a fundamental imbalance between supply and demand. Simply put, there are far more people seeking homes than there are affordable and available properties to accommodate them. This mismatch is driven by a complex interplay of factors, including population growth, urbanization, and inadequate housing construction. In many countries, particularly those experiencing rapid economic growth, population growth has outpaced the construction of new housing units. This is particularly true in urban centers where the allure of job opportunities, cultural amenities, and a vibrant lifestyle draws people from smaller towns and rural areas. This influx of new residents, combined with natural population growth, puts immense pressure on the existing housing stock. Furthermore, outdated zoning regulations, lengthy permitting processes, and a shortage of skilled labor in the construction industry can hinder the development of new housing projects. These bottlenecks exacerbate the supply-demand imbalance, driving up prices and making it increasingly difficult to build affordable housing units. Section 7. The Millennial Burden, a generation priced out. The global housing crisis has had a disproportionate impact on millennials, the generation born between the early 1980s and the mid-1990s. Saddled with student loan debt, stagnant wages, and rising living costs, many millennials find themselves priced out of the housing market, delaying traditional milestones like homeownership and family formation. For many millennials, the dream of owning a home feels like an impossible feat. They often face a double whammy: stagnant wages that have failed to keep pace with inflation and soaring house prices that have far outstripped income growth. This affordability crisis has forced many millennials to delay homeownership, choosing instead to rent for longer periods or move back in with their parents. The financial strain of housing costs has far-reaching consequences for millennials, impacting their ability to save for retirement, start families, and build a secure financial future. This generation faces the prospect of being the first in modern history to be worse off economically than their parents, a sobering reality that underscores the urgency of addressing the housing affordability crisis. Section 8. Building a brighter future. Solutions for housing affordability. Addressing the global housing crisis requires a multifaceted approach, involving a combination of government policies, private sector innovation, and community-driven initiatives. It demands a fundamental shift in how we think about housing, moving away from treating it as a commodity, and towards recognizing it as a fundamental human right. One crucial step is to increase the supply of affordable housing units. This can be achieved through a combination of zoning reform, streamlined permitting processes, and financial incentives for developers who prioritize affordable housing projects. Governments can also explore innovative construction techniques and prefabricated housing options to accelerate the building process and reduce costs. Another essential aspect is providing financial assistance to aspiring homeowners, particularly first-time buyers struggling to overcome the barrier of a down payment. Governments can offer tax breaks, subsidies, and low-interest loan programs to make homeownership more attainable for low- and middle-income earners. Finally, addressing the root causes of housing inequality requires tackling broader societal issues such as income inequality, wealth disparities, and systemic discrimination in housing markets. This includes promoting fair lending practices, combating housing discrimination, and investing in communities that have historically been marginalized and underserved. Section 9. A roof over our heads, a universal right. The global housing crisis is not merely an economic issue, it is a social justice issue that demands our urgent attention and collective action. Access to safe, affordable, and adequate housing is a fundamental human right, essential for individual well-being, social cohesion, and a thriving society. We must move beyond band-aid solutions and address the systemic factors that perpetuate housing inequality. This requires a paradigm shift, recognizing that housing is not just an investment opportunity, but a fundamental human need. It is time to prioritize people over profits and ensure that everyone has a place to call home. The path forward requires collaboration, innovation, and a steadfast commitment to creating a more just and equitable housing system. By working together, we can build a future where everyone has the opportunity to live in a safe, affordable, and dignified home, a future where the dream of homeownership is not a distant aspiration but a tangible reality for all.